Hello, my name is Alexandria Gibson with the Sam Proctor Oral History Program. Today is September 2nd, 2024, and I'm interviewing Jalan Harris on Zoom. Please introduce yourself. What is your full name and can you please spell it?
My name is Jalan Harris, Jalan Harris, Harris.
All right, Jalan, when and where were you born?
I was born in Freeport, Grand Bahama in the early 90s.
All right. All right, Jalan, what lineage do your parents come from?
Okay, so my mom, she's a blend of Edgecombe, Albury, and I think Dean. My father, he's a Harris, and he actually is from Turks and Caicos, but he has been naturalized since independence.
Okay. What island does your mother come from?
Nassau, New
Nassau.
Providence, New Providence.
And did she grow up in Nassau?
Yeah, she did. I think she moved to Freeport shortly after marriage. Yeah.
Okay. And your father grew up, you said he grew up in Turks and Caicos?
He grew up in Turks and Caicos, but he moved to Inagua, which is where he spent his childhood, and I guess somehow he managed up to Nassau.
Okay. So he was raised in Inagua.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Um, what did they do for a living?
Well, my dad, he worked for the container port, like the shipping company. It was like an industrial type of job. And my mom, she was a banker. She did a lot of freelance work, like she sold Avon, like when that was the thing. And yeah, now she sells insurance.
Okay. Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Freeport, and yeah, I've been there all my life. I didn't live anywhere else.
So, what was Freeport like for you as a girl growing up?
Um, it was it was a pretty nice environment in terms of, I guess, having access to island pleasantries. Um, I was more of a like a introverted, creative type of person, but I would say the overall energy of Freeport was it was pretty active. We had um the same place you mentioned, the bazaar. We had that. That was very frequent. That was very that helped the economy a lot. And I think after a certain point it had slowed down, but there was a lot more to do. I feel there was a lot more culture. So, we would go to Port Lacaya and we'd see like the fire dancers and stuff like that. But you don't get too much of that anymore unless it's like for tourist reasons. But I remember it being very vibrant.
Hmm. Hmm. So, you mentioned as a child for fun, you would go to Port Lacaya. Were there any other things on the island that you did?
Went to the beach, church. That was a big part of it. I was, yeah, like it was just school. It was an outing or two with family, church regularly, and the occasional trip to maybe Nassau or the States even. But yeah, I had more of a like a uh indoor type of experience, I guess. Yeah.
Mhm. What kind of impact did church have on your development, you feel?
It definitely put me in that headspace of like knowing there's a creator, being being like moral just based on how I am as a person and learning certain practices, fixed systems when it came to Catholicism, because I went to a Catholic primary school and high school. So I feel like that part of my life was definitely ingrained. in me. That was probably the most consistent factor of my life. Um, yeah, I got to experience beautiful spaces, monasteries. We even had nuns as teachers, like for the beginning of primary school. So I would say it was pretty much a huge part of my life. Yeah.
What Catholic school did you go to?
I went to Mary Star and then I went to Catholic High.
Awesome. So I went to Mary Star too. Was Sister Eleanor there when you
Yeah.
were there?
Yes, she was.
Handwriting?
Yes, handwriting.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes. Oh, rest in peace. Yeah, she was one of the memorable ones. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember Miss Eleanor.
Yes. I remember her as well. That's why my
Mhm.
handwriting is so nice now. Still, those cracks on
Yeah,
the knuckles. I don't know if you were there for cracks on the knuckle season.
oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Good.
But we learned cursive, so that was good.
Yes. What are some of your fondest memories of Catholic school?
I guess the teachers were cool because, they really make the experience worthwhile when it comes to learning. Um, I I feel like I dealt with a lot of like creative energy, so I don't really have much recollection outside of like say art classes or creative writing and stuff. Like I always was into the artsy stuff. The
Mhm.
other things, it was like a bubble. Like I really can't. Yeah, but it was the subjects. I did like biology. And the teachers who that taught me, yeah, some of them are very influential. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, bringing up church again, you talked about church having an impact on your development as far as morals. But what was your earliest memory of church?
Mm, I mean, I guess I would say times when like say Christmas or Lent came around and then you had to wear like your fluffy dress and everyone was just dressed to the nines type of thing. And then that's when church was extra long. So yeah, like I would say more so of the I would say feast days as I would call it
Mhm.
now. But um it was I would hate to say ritual, but it was something very habitual that became, you know, just like waking up to go to school. So it's almost like monotonous. So I can't say in depth because I would even kind of like zone out in some instances, but
Mhm.
it it was just a series of like repetitious practices that helped us with our spiritual health. They read the scripture, and I did CCD. I did the Saturday classes, went
Mhm.
through the whole yards, confirmation. Like, like I was just in there. Like it
Mhm.
was a lot. But yeah, that was I spent a lot of my free time like connected to the church.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What would you say was different between your parents' childhood on the island and yours?
Well, they definitely had to deal with a lot more siblings than I did. Um, and I think they definitely had more responsibilities. They wouldn't talk too much about their childhood per se, but based on how it was back then, I can get a pretty solid idea. So I guess stuff like outdoor toilets, I guess more storytelling, walking, just down to the technology, I guess. We just did things differently. Um, Maybe more connection to nature, I would say. I was exposed to the I guess natural herbal practices at a young age, like especially when you got sick. So I think they were more mindful of the natural resources back then. They used it to their advantage more. They just were outside more, they worked more. Um, I guess had their financial struggles, but all of them, they made it out pretty well.
Yes, yes. So you
Mhm.
mentioned being introduced to herbal medicine young. Did your family call it bush medicine, or
Yeah,
what did they call
yeah,
it?
yeah. I would say it was bush medicine or bitters, as
Bitters.
they would call it. Yeah. Because like when you grow up, Cersei, aloe, like they're like the staples,
Mhm,
shepherd's needle. We even learned a bit of that in class too. I feel like I said, back then we were more cultural, like oriented, or at least it was still in its raw stages before I would say the US influenced us. So
mhm.
I caught that last bit right before they did that transition.
How do you use bush medicine or home remedies in your life now? Or do you?
I do. You know, I remember when COVID started, I drank a lot of mango leaf tea because I knew it helped with like lung inflammation and stuff like that. So I
Mhm,
mean, I never got a severe case, but just for up your immune system type of thing. Aloe, yeah, I drank that quite a bit, or like there would be mixtures that I would get, or there would even be baths that I vaguely remember, like with herbs in the tub type of thing.
mhm,
Um, yeah, if I use it frequently, like usually if say like I'm sick or my daughter's sick, even just to up my immune system, I would drink neem at least like once a month
mhm.
to do like a cleanse. So I do it pretty regularly.
Okay. How old is your daughter?
She's 8.
8. Do you teach her any of the old ways and about the bush medicine and such?
Yeah, she definitely doesn't like the taste of it, but she definitely sees me bringing like bushes home or like we have stuff drying. Like her father's house has a moringa tree, or
Mhm,
at least they used to, and we would make teas from them. I used to take it when I was breastfeeding as well.
mhm.
So she got it in any which way, like so, but the bitter stuff she doesn't like too much, but she does like tea. So
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
lemongrass, yeah.
Okay. Okay. She
Yeah,
likes the lemongrass.
yeah.
You mentioned a herb called shepherd's needle. I've never heard of that one. What do you know what that one's for?
I usually would use it for colds. And I think it helps with blood pressure too.
Mhm,
It's like the white petaled flower that kind of pokes up in everyone's yard. It's a weed that they pull out. They think it's a weed, but
mhm.
it grows in people's yard like weed. So it has like the leaves are a bit, I don't know, they have little pointy edges, but they grow in like clusters. So you could
Okay.
just, I guess you could look it up and see how it looks. It might jog your memory, but
Okay.
they're easily accessible. You just pluck them up in the yard and they help a lot.
Okay. Now, how do you think your daughter is experiencing growing up on an island in comparison to you?
She she has access, I feel, to more information based on technology. I noticed, or at least I was there for the beginning of the internet. So, like I said, we caught more of the natural olden days before technology really advanced. So she definitely is more technically advanced. And I do encourage her to also be an outside child. She does have a lot of energy, so she likes to run around anyway. Um, well, I would say if one isn't close to like say an elder or grandparents, it would be hard to um get that type of knowledge in terms of like the herbal remedies and stuff like that. So I think
Mhm,
it's harder for them to access that type of information because they're flooded with all these new age philosophies and stuff like that. But in terms of difference, I would say I still try to teach her a lot of stuff I grew up with, but um, I think the disconnect would be that we're kind of forced indoors. Like crime has increased since I've been a child. Like, you don't feel comfortable leaving your children with just anybody. Like back in the day, you could have done that more. It was more of a community. Like now you're just paranoid. So it's like
Mhm.
you just kind of keep them like close, but stuff like fairs, beaches, stuff like that, she still gets to experience. Um, yeah, I mean, some of it is still the same, but I would say it's a lot different when it comes to just engaging in technology. So they're more into that.
Mhm.
They were born into it basically. So yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, do you know your grandparents?
I knew my grandmothers. One passed like a little over a year ago. My maternal grandmother, she's still alive. She's currently in Freeport.
Okay,
Yeah, but I don't know my grandfathers.
okay. Um, what did you spend time with your grandmothers growing up?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with them. My maternal grandmother especially. So yeah, we're close. Like she's at the point where she can't see and she's basically to her bed for the most part, but like her memory is still good. She still, we still have that connection. I think she still remembers like how often we were together. So like I don't remember too much, but it's like, the love is there. Like something definitely happened through, just being around her. Like she was familiar, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What was the oldest ancestor that you got to meet?
I would say that would be my great grandmother. She
Mhm.
passed when I was, I think, still in high school. I can't remember the age, but she lived to be, I think early 90s,
Mhm.
91, 92, and then she got buried in Luther, and that's when we did the trip. So that was like in '07.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. Had you spent any time on any of the family islands in your youth?
I went to Bimini once, and then, like I said, I went to Eleuthera, and then I spent more time in Nassau because I did have more family members there at the time.
Mhm.
Hmm.
How did you feel about or what do you think the difference was in for Nassau in comparison to Freeport? I'm not really sure with my question, but as a child, through a child's eyes and lens, like what do you think the differences were?
It was a lot busier. I think back then they were still complaining about the traffic and the crowds and the people.
Mhm.
You were very much aware as a family islander that Nassau was dangerous. Like, like that was the talk. So we definitely were more cautious
Mhm.
there. Um, and then again, I spend a lot of time like just with family members. So to say that I experienced the outside experience, like I did the New Year's Junkanoo thing once or twice.
Mhm.
That was packed, like something very memorable. And sometimes I visited a cousin of mine. We went one or two places. Like, the social life was always pretty active here. That's why, I mean, it's the capital, so people come in and out, things to do. Basically, it's busier. Like you have more stuff to do. It has that city vibe. So yeah, I remember some pretty interesting places, and then it has like an island feel. It's not as refined as how Freeport was in terms of like it was still like islandy, but you can tell the difference in terms of just the layouts of the buildings, just the infrastructures. I saw more wooden houses here in Nassau, still do, than compared to Freeport,
Mhm.
like because they're more of an industrial type of island, so they're heavy on the concrete and whatever else. But yeah, I saw more of the older houses here, very picturesque, very vintage, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, they still had the vibe of the city, but very much like island life because you saw parts of history here too that still stuck around.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do for a living now?
Now I am freelancing. At the beginning of the year, I was doing sign production and I was doing that was basically like my career. I bounced in between businesses doing that, but now I'm actually like a spiritual advisor for this site. They found me on Tumblr and
Mhm.
it's like you read birth charts, tarots to random people and
Mhm.
it's kind of like an on-call center. So I get my credits and then I monetize that way. And I just recently started an online store. It's a drop shipping site. So basically, I would use my designs, and they do the production and they do the shipping. So that one is fairly new. But I figured I don't really have much to lose. It's not like I have to directly put money into it. So it's just a matter of me marketing. But that's something that I think I've been running away from for some time because I was uncomfortable with the uncertainty of doing things just like solely on my own because, you know, we still have that pressure to have the 9 to 5 and do all of that, still try to balance home life, be present as a mother, this, that, the next thing. So I think I was forced to kind of like face that reality in a sense, like because even while I worked, I would still do my things on the side, or I just found like other opportunities to try, I guess, just help with my income because I mean, everyone I feel could be paid a bit more, but I just felt it came to a point where my efforts weren't being compensated. So I just had to take that leap, which would in turn simplify my life in a way.
Right. Right. So it sounds like um because you are spiritual and you are able to tap into your divine feminine, that is allowing you to move in the marketplace as a woman and show up as a woman and have your time as a woman.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah. And
that's
I
the
was running
beauty,
from that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of embracing
Mhm.
womanhood,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah. It's been a ride.
Yes, yes. So what
Mhm.
is your favorite kind of art to create?
Um, I think the most satisfying is the painting, but I find that I don't know, maybe I just kind of lost the patience for it. Like
Mhm.
I'm the type of person, I guess I like to just finish things like quickly. And I found that I guess graphic work was more satisfying for my, you know, serotonin levels. Like, because I think with painting, obviously, I need more patience. And that is also something I'm working on. But painting is gratifying. It's just I have spells where I don't do it for a while.
Mhm.
But generally, collage work interests me, like paper collage or digital. Um, when I'm called to kind of just fiddle with something, I'll do it. Like I did a loose sewing outfit of a like a Oya costume I designed. It wasn't like professional at all. Like I just tried to put it together. So when I my hands get busy, I just try to see what I can do, like see what I could create. Um, but I guess for now, graphics is satisfying. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to jump back. I have a few more questions just about your girlhood before I
Hmm.
forget. Um, do you remember when you first menstruated and what was that like for you?
I was 9 and I don't know, for some reason, I guess when I found out about what menstruation was, I guess as a growing girl, you get curious about it. So you low key kind of get like invested about it, like when is it gonna happen, this, that, the next thing. So I feel like at that age, when I found out about it, it came shortly after. So I was 9 when it happened. And I remember at some point, I can't remember if I went home a lot when I was in primary school, but I remember leaving high school because of the cramps on occasion.
Mhm.
And that's when I would end up staying by my great grandmother, actually, like because my mom would have to get me and she'd drop me there. And my great grammy had like her son taking care of her. So I was just there trying to recover. But it was painful. It was messy. It was, like my mom taught me the hygienic way to dispose of them and what's not. And um told me that, obviously that means you could have a baby now. So don't be doing no foolishness type of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was an interesting experience, to say the
Do you,
least.
sorry.
No.
Do you recall any like folk remedies, taboos, or superstitions surrounding menstruation from girlhood?
Okay, so I know off the bat they consider you to be unclean, like
Mhm.
you're not supposed to cook for your spouse or something like that. And I know in some cultures, um, they have usually the women have to like kind of either sleep outside or be outside, like they can't actually live in the house while they're on their menstruation. Remedies, ginger, bougainvillea, raspberry leaf tea. Just really stay hydrated. They do encourage exercise, but honestly, you never really have the energy, so I can't really swear on that one. But um, it's I would say also they told me to kind of eat less fatty stuff, more fruits, more vegetables during that time. Um, what other myths? Uh, well, I actually learned from the this podcast that I listen to on occasion. He's actually a practitioner. They say the clotting actually represents the iyami. So when you go through that cycle, like they're very close to you during this time. So you become very more like rebellious, like Lilith type energy. So that I recently learned. And yeah, like they just made it seem like it was like gross or shameful or it's something you, like if you go out your pads you had to hide it when you go to the bathroom type of thing.
Mhm.
um and then like the biggest fear is having like a stain out in public, and that's something you still have to deal with to this day. Like, so it's like it's so much to remember, so much to unlearn. But yeah.
Yes. Yes. A quick question. So you mentioned bougainvillea. I never knew that that grew all over my walkway as a child. I didn't know that was even an herb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone who I had on my Facebook at a time, I think it was like a wildlife person. Like he studied Bahamian wildlife and plants,
Mhm.
and he had actually mentioned it was pretty good for like menstruation. And I tried it. It did its job. For the most part, I did with the ginger and added other things, but it does help a lot with the cramps.
Now, are you using the flowers or the leaves from the bougainvillea?
Flowers.
The flowers. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
those it's spiky. I remember
Mm-hmm.
seeing
Oh
that
yeah, the
spiky thing.
branches itself, yeah, they're spiky, but the petals, that color actually just runs right off the petals, and it does a pretty nice color. Like it looks very close to the burgundy or the magenta looking color that it is. It's
Okay,
pretty
okay.
nice.
So when you were a girl, when did you consider yourself transitioned to a woman? Or when did you become a woman to you?
I guess when I was 18, when I was legal,
Mm-hmm.
when the law said I was, but um after, and I guess like after finishing that 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 level, that milestone of completing college or completing high school, more or less,
Mhm.
going through that whole initiation of teenage angst and all the rest of that. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'd say by 18, 19, I was like, yeah, I have to be accountable for my actions or else I'll go to jail or something like that. So you have to be accountable at that age.
Mhm.
For sure. I
Now
was
I'm
nowhere near it though. I was nowhere near it. Not at
no,
18.
no, I know in hindsight. I'm curious to know. I've been doing a lot of research on the word womanish because, coming up with us, it means one thing, but then like scholastically or academically, it means another thing. And so I wanted to know what did the word womanish mean to you as a child, and what does it mean to you now, if there is any difference?
So womanish would be, I guess, a young girl that either has like mature mannerisms, or they might just be an old soul, or they literally just pick up the actions of the older women that they're around. Like, like because naturally children mimic their parents. And yeah, I would say it was more of a negative connotation because it's like you're getting beside yourself, or you might be doing too much, or yeah, like you may be trying to grow up too fast, or yeah, stuff like that.
Does it still have the same meaning to you now?
Yeah, they definitely still use it that way now. Um, but I feel like it's just something that we as hold on, I think I have to drink some water. Yeah, I think it's something that um we observe people doing, and whatever I guess resonates with the child, like whatever sticks to the child because their their brain is like a sponge. I think we praise uh boys to be, like manly or masculine at a certain age. Like they're more praised for that. If they want to put on their daddy shoes, oh look, you're so cute, you look like your daddy. But if a girl decides to wear heels, like, girl, what you doing? Take these shoes off.
Mhm.
There's a there's a stark comparison of how we treat our kids based on their sex. So yeah, it still has those connotations. What was the other meaning that you found it out to be?
So with please take your time. Take your water, take your time. Um, so in because I study feminism and I'm in women's studies in academia, the Alice Walker who came up with womanism reframed it as a way of us being empowered and speaking up for ourselves and taking up space in the world.
Mhm.
So I'll send you some stuff when we get
Okay.
off so you can see. But it's just it was a way of reframing feminism for Black women, because it's historically noted that feminism has almost been for white women, and it
Right.
doesn't
Oh.
properly like encompass our ways of being, knowing, and experiences as Black women. And so
Mhm.
womanism was coined as a turn from the word womanish as a way um, of our needs and our voice being heard of our experiences, basically.
Now that you say that, there was a book. I literally bought a book that, what we said the author's name was again?
Alice Walker, she wrote The Color Purple.
Okay, I may have to see it. I think it was like a red and black book or something that I read based on the womanism movement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, I don't know. It may not be the same one, but yeah, I definitely resonate with, that, yeah, because like feminism was for white women. They wanted to work, but our grandmothers were working. Like they had to support their family. Like we grew up, in a different struggle. So yeah.
Right, right, right. And so I've just been like curious, um, whether or not in the Bahamas we've reclaimed that word like our American sisters had or not, you know?
Yeah, no, No, we definitely have not. And then it's like I think it's also I mean, I think it's the phenomenon straight across the board, but we still kind of don't take, I guess the mothers don't take their daughters seriously even through, adulthood. It's like you're never quite old enough, but then it's like they expect, I don't know, like it's like they never take you seriously. So it's like you're a child, you're learning from them, you're womanish, and then when you become a woman, they're now dictating to you on what a woman should be, or they're challenging your womanhood. So it's like, when do you actually have time to be a woman comfortably without the influence of, like, say, just either down to your elders or your mother judging you or just society in general. So
Mhm.
I think it's just something that we consistently had to deal with, since we were born.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Mhm. I agree. I just have a few more questions. Were you aware of racism as a child at all?
Yeah, I can't say how young, but I'd say when we traveled when I was about, say, 7, 8, 9, we'd go to the States. Um, so that's when I would usually see, white people in excess. And I personally do not have any uh negative experiences, though I did experience it when I did youth exchange. My mom had visited me. We were actually in Italy, and we got, well, I observed more racial kind of kickback, like in terms of like people's expressions. Not so much in the States though. Like I said, it was a kind of cordial type energy, like whether it was genuine or not. But to say any microaggressions or anything like fully direct, no. But I also tend to have a habit of kind of like blanking out negative memories. So I don't think so much racism was an issue for me. But I saw the in terms of, oh, hold on 1 second. I'm getting a
Mhm.
call. Now, yeah, like I didn't experience too much of that in the States. Like I feel like, in just thinking back to everything, I would consider myself fairly lucky. Like I feel like I was protected, even from the slightest bit of just discrepancies, or maybe I just wasn't aware of it, but I wouldn't say I had any conflict in terms of uh just racism in general. Like obviously you're stereotyped, obviously, you're seen a different way. Like I can't control anyone's thoughts, or you know, but to say, oh, I also noticed, that's what I was saying. I would notice the economic differences, like in terms of, white versus black. You have, like, certain schools where either foreigners, expats, or, say, I don't know, like white Bahamians, they have their sections, they have their areas, the schools, and or at least where you're more like, financially able to support closed communities and what's not. You saw the difference. You saw the difference in way of life, like, even down to the kids. They were whimsical. They were driving at like 16. They were, you saw the difference,
Mhm.
as a Black Bahamian or a Black woman, girl, whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, economic differences was probably the most noticeable to me. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned being Black Bahamian. Did you always identify as a Black Bahamian? Did you identify nationally, ethnically? Like, how do you identify, or how did you in the past?
Well, I heard the term Afro-Bahamian like in a history book, and I was like, okay, that sounds like me. So I had Afro. So yeah, like Afro-Bahamian is good. I mean, and it also just, I mean, the Bahamians, they're a melting pot. They say we mix up like Kong salad. Everyone from everywhere somehow. But
Mhm.
yeah, like I think it makes it specific for the ones of African descent, specifically, Afro-Bahamians would ring it well for me.
Okay. How do you feel about the title Black?
Well, it is something we've been conditioned to say, but obviously, like my skin is not black. Like so
Right.
it is a derogatory term that has been, conditioned into us. So even
Mhm.
when I'm aware of it, I still say it. You know what I mean? So it's just a unlearning process. Like brainwashing is real, human conditioning is real, like it's powerful, it's long lasting, it could stretch into generations. So yeah, like it's not really something I truthfully associate with. Like
Mhm.
I feel like people have more of a reaction to like colored, but I do feel like that may suit us more considering, what it is. Like we now say woman of color and stuff like that. I guess it's just more politically correct
Mhm.
and just more digestible. Hmm.
Yes, yes. Um, you mentioned being a spiritual advisor. How did you find spirituality in the Bahamas, being brought up like religious, so to speak?
Okay, well, though I was brought up and indoctrinated, I always had that type of mindset where, you were curious, you had questions. I just feel like honestly there was a mental disconnect. I don't know if it was just because we had to go to church regularly or because just as a kid I wasn't interested, but um I think I became just a bit more aware probably right before my teens. I was kind of passive towards religion at that point, kind of passive towards church and the nature of the church. Um yeah, like and at that time you even noticed the conflicts in just between denominations and that in itself was ridiculous because like y'all literally on the same team, y'all just different branches and y'all
Mhm.
finding conflict even in that. So it made it even more kind of disengaging.
Mhm.
So I would say like because I had my goth phase and I had that whole oh do you worship the devil type of thing and it was just like I became kind of like just numb to it because it's like even as a say even if I was like a devout Christian and I just happened to be someone who was expressing my individuality, fellow supposed Christians are judging me based on how I want to carry myself and how is that you being an example, an example of
Mhm.
Christ because from what I recall Christ was with the prostitutes and the criminals. Like I think me and him would have had a cool conversation, you know what I mean? Like
Right, right.
but Um, I just think just noticing these things, I was passive towards it, but then I wasn't quite spiritual. I don't think I was really quite spiritual until maybe I got pregnant with my child because at that point you're like, oh my God, a new life. I just want
Mhm.
her to be protected. God, don't take her away from me. Like you
Mhm.
suddenly become like, oh, please keep my baby safe. Like, so I think around that time that I
Mhm.
started just taking more account of my soul. And I would say around 2020 is actually where when I found Ifa and it was Elle that I actually reached out to so that I could,
Mhm.
start this journey. Now, um, Yeah, like at first it was more about like manifesting, and I did have a tendency towards like ancestral veneration even before like this. Like once I started doing that, Ifa came like right after. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
like it only took a matter of months. So I was like interested in like pagan stuff. I was reading up just different like occult things. Like I just found it interesting, but wasn't really tied to anything. I think that's when I started like looking into astrology as well, but I got more deeper into it, I would say after 2020 sometime. But it was like tarot, it was like just me just exploring, like because now I had the means to. I was out of my people's house,
Mm-hmm.
I could have just do it without judgment. So yeah, I would say around 2016 was when I just started being more conscious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, so you live in Freeport and Hurricane Dorian, along with Floyd, and I mean, just numerous hurricanes have changed the island since we were
Hmm.
children. Uh,
Hmm.
what is your earliest memory of a hurricane and how have they affected you and or your family?
I can't even remember the name of the first one. I just remember we were like everything was closed up. All we could have heard was the wind. It was dark for most of the day. I think that's when I identified actually being depressed, like as a child.
Mhm.
But we didn't sustain much damages in terms of like the hurricane because apparently where I lived, Bahamia, they live on like an elevated type of land, which is funny because I'm Oya Obatala. So usually I tend to find his children live on elevated land. And then of course Oya being hurricanes, like she
Mhm.
wasn't gonna bother me, man. She just was telling me she was there. And it wasn't, yeah. So we didn't have too much trouble with the hurricanes, but it was a way we prepared, just have your water, you fill it up. It just taught you how to survive when the elements are out of your control. So it was a survival type of experience. It definitely memorable. It was scary and uncertain, but I wasn't here when the last hurricane was. That Dorian. Yeah, Dorian. I wasn't here. I was in Nassau. And
Okay.
by the time I came back after Dorian and did a little drive of the island, I mean, all the water was already gone for the most part, but it was just like heaps of just like garbage, like from gutted buildings. Like it was jarring. So by the time I got home, I just became so overwhelmed. I started crying because it was like, this is not how I remember Freeport. Like it literally felt like the winds just took the life out of it and they just had to start all over.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what do you wish to see as the island develops going forward?
What would I like to see for the island?
Yes.
I want us to move away from this serving hospitality thing that we've been going on for so long because
Mhm.
we have so many talented people, not only in the realm of entertainment, like we have inventors, we have innovators. I know so many talented artists, like scientists, social activists. Like there are people of my generation that actually want to see the Bahamas better, and we just need to advance towards more technology, or even just going back to our roots in a way, like using our natural resources, and capitalizing on it so that the average Bahamian could be pretty prosperous. Stuff down to like um the makeup of the conch shell, those things like as jewelry, so expensive. Like
Mhm.
limestone, so many things can be done from that. Like
Mhm.
and I know so many activists, they list off all of the resources that we could be using, profiting off of just the salt alone, man. Like I mean, we need more industry jobs. Like we need more manufacturing, production, less of the hotels, less, just shucking and jiving. Like it's
Mhm.
old. You know what I mean? So, and then we're still in that third world country state. Like we could be one of the richest. Like like our money is in par with the US, but like I just feel like we didn't really have much to show for it. Like why can't we be more than the US dollar? Like I just feel like I just feel like we could be doing just so much more. Like, but we're just stuck on tourism, So I feel like my generation may possibly do something different. If not, I'm sure my our children
Yes.
will, because
Yes.
at a certain point, it's like, because at this point they already rejecting every societal standard there is right now. Like these younger adults and now the children coming up. Yeah,
Mhm.
they're not gonna deal with that. Not the outdated thinking. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm. Just more tech. I just think more innovation. Just more. Let's just move away from the hospitality and let's actually make a future for our youths because they just have so much going on and they're questioning if they should even stay. Like we can't let the country die based off the fact that the youths don't want to stay here. But
Mhm.
something has to change. It'll come soon.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Well, Jalan, that brings me to the end of my questions. On behalf of the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program, I want to thank you so much for taking this time to meet with me today. Before we end this interview, do you have anything else that you would like to add or clarify?
Um, no, just happy that you found me and then we were closer than we thought. Oh, phone died.